Inside this room, a secret that marked human history has remained unsolved. The woman who made empires kneel, who captivated Roman generals, who ruled Egypt not with her beauty, but with her brilliance, Cleopatra. History claims she took her own life with a snake. But why? Why would one of the most powerful women in the world accept such a death? Or was she killed? Today, we uncover a question that has remained unanswered for 2,000 years. Was Cleopatra killed by a snake or by an assassin? On-screen text: the truth you were never told. People have spent centuries building a myth around Cleopatra. They remembered her for her beauty, as if she conquered the throne with her eyes alone. But the truth is something entirely different. Cleopatra was not a legend of beauty. She was a masterpiece of intellect, will, and presence. She understood that real power isn't carried by loud voices, but by whispers that shape decisions behind closed doors. She could sense the smallest shift in mood within the palace, read a room in seconds, and recognize a person's true intentions from a single glance. Her greatest weapon wasn't a dagger, it was psychology. Cleopatra had the rare ability to decode human behavior, to listen between the lines, to predict reactions, to turn silence into strategy. Her voice changed depending on who stood before her, gentle with diplomats, sharp and cold with traitors. She always knew how to speak, when to remain silent, and how to appear. What set her apart wasn't just intelligence, it was imagination and fearlessness. Cleopatra refused to walk the paths others created. She created her own. Even in the most impossible situations, her mind remained calm, as if she could see roads invisible to everyone else. The palace around her was a nest of whispers, schemes, and poisoned intentions. Yet none of it truly frightened her. Cleopatra knew her worth. She wasn't born to be a woman of power. She was born to be a ruler. Everyone in the palace felt the shift in the air when she entered a room. Conversations faded, eyes followed her. Her presence alone commanded attention, not because she was beautiful, but because she carried an energy that controlled the space around her. Cleopatra also mastered the art of emotional secrecy. Her joy, her doubts, her fear, all locked behind her gaze like a guarded vault. No one truly knew what she was thinking. That gave her a powerful advantage. Her character held both elegance and an iron hardness. Behind the soft, graceful exterior was a will that simply did not break. She was not someone who could be bent, shaped, or commanded. Her decisions were not influenced by others. They came from a voice deep within herself. Cleopatra was a woman who surrendered control to no one. Her life, her throne, her future, all had to remain in her own hands. But such power, such brilliance, inevitably draws enemies. And Cleopatra understood better than anyone. Power is not given to everyone. Power tests the one who carries it. And sometimes, power is what writes a ruler's death. Cleopatra's love life is one of the most famous and most misunderstood stories in history. But in reality, she had only two great loves, and both of these relationships changed the course of the world. Her first lover was Julius Caesar, the most powerful man in Rome. Cleopatra didn't approach him for romance alone. She saw in Caesar a partner who could protect Egypt. Their relationship was political, passionate, and dangerous, and together they became the most powerful couple of their era. Cleopatra even had a son with him, Caesarion, the child Rome feared. After Caesar was assassinated, Cleopatra found the second great love of her life, Mark Antony, Rome's brilliant yet emotional general. Their bond was intense, part love, part alliance, part destiny. Antony gave her armies, and Cleopatra gave him purpose. Together they dreamed of ruling the East, and their love terrified Rome. But both romances ended in tragedy. Caesar died, Antony died, and Cleopatra, left alone, faced the collapse of her empire. Cleopatra wasn't a woman with countless lovers. She loved only twice, and each love reshaped the world. Rome's leader, Octavian, had one clear goal: to take Cleopatra to Rome alive and humiliate her in a triumphal parade before the people. For Cleopatra, this was worse than death. She understood perfectly well that if she was taken to Rome, she would no longer be a queen, and Egypt would be swallowed entirely by Roman power. But there was another side to this. For Octavian to secure his rule and strengthen his legitimacy, Cleopatra's death was far more convenient than her survival. History textbooks tell us a simple story, that on her final day, Cleopatra retreated into a dim death chamber with only 2 loyal servants beside her and an ASP, a small, deadly, venomous snake. They say the snake slithered out of a basket and bit her on the arm. The venom spread through her veins, and Cleopatra chose a noble death. And so, for thousands of years, we've been told the same elegant story. But stop for a moment. Where is the evidence? Where is the wound? Where is the physical proof? Because in all of recorded history, not a single piece of solid evidence has ever confirmed this tale, which means that maybe, just maybe, the famous snake story is nothing more than a beautifully crafted myth. Some historians believe the snake story is nothing more than a myth, a beautifully crafted legend with no real evidence behind it, because Cleopatra's final moments may have been far darker than the tale we were taught. Many researchers argue that Cleopatra was either forced to drink poison or secretly executed under Octavian's direct orders. But why? Why would Rome's most ambitious leader want the world's most famous woman dead? The first reason was the people's love. Bringing Cleopatra to Rome alive was incredibly risky. Her charisma, her intelligence, her presence, she could win the crowd instantly. If the Roman people admired her, Octavian's rising power could crumble. For a new ruler, this was a deadly threat. The second reason was Egypt itself. If Cleopatra lived, rebellions could erupt across Egypt because she wasn't just a queen. She was the symbol of a nation. Even her existence was dangerous to Rome. And the third, perhaps the most terrifying reason, was her mind. People talk about her beauty, but what truly frightened Octavian was her intelligence, her strategy, her ability to influence anyone she met. To him, Cleopatra was not a fallen queen. She was the most dangerous enemy he had ever faced. And so, on that final night, one of history's darkest chapters unfolded. The corridors were dim, torches flickering against the walls. Somewhere in the distance, footsteps echoed. A figure moved silently toward Cleopatra's chamber, a shadow we will never identify, the shape of a killer in the dark. Ancient sources whisper a chilling line. The queen did not die by her own choice. For centuries, this sentence has survived, and every year, more historians are beginning to believe it. Maybe Cleopatra did not die by a snake at all, but by the cold command of power. Cleopatra's death remains a mystery. A snake, poison, an assassin. No one truly knows. But one truth survives. They may have ended her life, but they could never silence her power, her legacy, or her name. 2,000 years later, one question still remains. How did Cleopatra really die? Or perhaps the real question is, who wanted her silenced?